FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
We have to live within our means. We have to reduce our deficit, and we have to get back on a path that will allow us to pay down our debt. And we have to do it in a way that protects the recovery, protects the investments we need to grow, creates jobs, and helps us win the future.
Now, usually when you invest in something, you get a return on it. I still haven't gotten a return for the stimulus spending. Have you, Kane? I have not received.
No, I can't say that I have.
So I think that's just some political spin for highway robbery is what that is. We're going to get some of your calls in here. I appreciate your patience, but right now we're going to bring on a gentleman who is in the news absolutely everywhere, and he's also sitting in the catbird seat at the top of many, many polls. Mr. Donald Trump joins us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's fantastic to have you here, and I have to say a very good friend of ours who's on the show every week, Roger Stone, sings
Roger's
your praises.
Good. Very good. Good guy.
He's a very good guy. So I'm sure that you've heard some of the president's remarks. I want to ask you about this, and we're going to talk about the presidential stuff and some other things. But the president laid out his idea on how to cut the deficit, and he believes the way to do that, Mr. Trump, is to target it's taxes, and not doing anything to the health control law. None of that. Did you get a chance to hear his speech?
Well, I got a very, very basic shot at it because I'm also running a big business, and I don't have the luxury of listening to every word until I decide to do this very strongly, and I look forward to doing that sometime prior to June. But I do have a lot of things that have been already brought to my attention. Number one, charitable giving is going to go way down. Mm-hmm. The interest deduction on homes is, I think, a disaster for the real estate industry, for people owning homes. And, that automatic trigger that was suggested, that is a pretty scary thing, I would think, to taxpayers.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And this, and this is something that you've been discussing in interviews. You don't like the fact that 40% of what we spend every year is borrowed money. China owns so much of our debt. You've been a huge critic of this, and you were also a very huge critic when the president rolled out the red carpet for China just a couple of months ago. Yes.
They've been taking advantage of us for years. We are rebuilding China. They make all our products, no matter what you do. They make all of our products virtually between them and a few other countries, and they are making a fortune. This year they're going to make $300 billion plus on the United States and take our jobs. So, and they do it through manipulation of the currency. We make better products than they do, but they manipulate their currency to a point where our companies can't compete. So it's a very, very sad situation. And, you talk about taxes. There's a good way of not having to tax people. Just go after China and get them to do it fairly. And you can do that very easily. There is a way of doing that with China. I've made a lot of money with China over the years. There's a way to do that very, very firmly but easily.
Right. Now, in terms of you're deciding, you have your presidential exploratory committee. You've been out there talking about what you would do if elected. You gave an interview recently, I believe it was with the Wall Street Journal, who also has you polled very highly. You came in right behind Romney, and then in a CNN poll, you beat Romney and you tied with Huckabee. A lot of people are saying, because of the remark that you gave about, well, if you didn't win the GOP primary, you would run as an independent. A lot of people are saying you're like the second coming of Ross Perot. I think besides some of the obvious differences in some of your stances, among them like social issues, do you think that's an accurate assessment? And what would be the biggest difference?
Well, I don't have too many differences with the Republican Party in terms of stances. I'm pro-life and, lots of other things that are, that some people were even actually surprised. But I'm very similar to, I think, very mainstream and even conservative Republicans. I also love the Republican Party. I think it's very important, frankly, to beat Obama. I think that's the key. If a man from Mars comes down, I'd almost say if he can beat Obama, that's a good thing. Right. But I would be very much in favor of having the Republicans win this election. And the thing that would be a little bit scary, because I am on the very conservative side of the Republican Party, I would not be taking votes away from Obama. I would be taking them away from a Republican candidate, and that very much bothers me. And that's why I said that while I would normally, assuming I could win, think of it, I would have very strong pause because I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the Republican Party in case I didn't win as an independent.
Right. A lot of folks, a lot of conservatives, a lot of grassroots folks, a lot of Republicans have brought up some of the stuff in the past. And I know, and look, I realize people change positions. When I was in high school, I campaigned for Clinton. So I realized, yeah, I know.
Big difference.
I'm repenting for that. But you've had some changes on some issues.
I have.
You've changed your position on health care, on single payer. You said, you told us at CPAC that you think the health control law is unconstitutional. You've come out on the conservative.
Well, I'm very much against Obamacare. I think it's a disaster. And I am for a different reason. I have very smart friends that own small businesses and some big businesses, frankly, and including my business, which is a very big business. And people are saying that companies are just not going to be able to be competitive. They're not going to be able to afford Obamacare.
Right.
I mean, they've done all the work for me.
Right. Well, and see, a lot of people, I think, have had the come to Jesus moment in the past couple of years, especially with things like that. Some people are saying that, well, we don't know how genuine he is because he used to be kind of liberal, and then they bring up a lot of the campaign donations in the past to like Charlie Rangel and Schumer and Anthony Weiner and all of these people.
Well, you have to understand, I come from a state that's almost exclusively Democratic. And I do have to survive in a very, very good place. I like New York. I've always liked New York. But there are very few Republicans, frankly, at high political levels. If you look, our governor is a Democrat. And, frankly, it's if you look at the council, the city council, I guess it's close to 100%. Maybe it's 95%. Democratic. So really, if you're going to be doing business, and to be honest with you also, right. I also know some very good people that are Democrats, and I've known them for a long time. They've been friends of mine. I know they're good. And I think that's a little bit what you have. You go to Washington, you have a stalemate. And wouldn't it be good if somebody was able to get along with both sides and knock heads and get it done and get something approved that really is good for the country instead of the kind of stuff that we're witnessing like today with the speech that he made, which is a basic disaster?
Oh, yeah. And I agree with that completely. And I understand that in certain instances, it's kind of a business move. But like in Nevada with like Harry Reid and Sharon Angle, I mean, this is just what people have emailed me. And they're like, we're concerned about this. We love what he says about economics. We love what he says about healthcare. We love what he says about China.
Right.
But they bring up instances such as this. And I think that people might be hesitant to
but
take
I think it's good. And I understand what you're saying. And I fully get it. And I am a Republican. But I also think it's good if somebody actually does get along with the Democrats. Wouldn't it make life a lot better and a lot easier if, through relationships, through friendships? And again, I happen to be living, I don't agree with the principles very strongly. I mean, I guess some are very nice, some are mutual. But the fact is, wouldn't it be nice if somebody actually got along with both sides of the aisle and could get things done?
So you really have, and this is one of the things that I believe why so many people find your candidacy alluring, because you don't seem to be a party loyalist so much as you seem to be a problem solver. And I myself am not a party loyalist. I want to be super conservative and I want to get things done. Do you identify yourself in a little bit more in that vein?
Well, I think I do, but I think I'm also a country loyalist. When I look at the gridlock in Washington, that's not good for anybody. I mean, it's wonderful to say the Republicans here, the Democrats are there, they fight all the time, they bring it up to the last moment, and then somebody chickens out. Wouldn't it be better instead if you had somebody that's, number one, a deal maker? Because the one thing I'm a good deal maker. Some people say one of the best.
Yes, I think a lot.
That's what we need. You need that. And you can't just in all of these different things like last week where they go right up to the end and then somebody chickened out. Who knows who and who cares who.
Right.
But wouldn't it be better if we could all get together and get it done? So I have had friendships with many Democrats over the years and with many Republicans, and I get along with sort of everybody. And in a tough way, too. I mean, I'll get my way. But I think that's what the country needs at this point. It's a little bit ridiculous when you look at every one of these things. The next one's going to be the cap, what's going to happen with the cap, and it's going to be very interesting to see. But, that'll go down to the end, and the two sides hate each other. So I think there's an advantage in what has taken place with me.
Yes. One of the things that you've been in the news the most for recently, of course, is the issue about the birth certificate. So many outlets, recently the Today Show, they say that this isn't an issue. Do you feel as though you have a lead on something or information on something that may make it an issue? I mean, do you think that they're incorrect, or what do you have to convince you otherwise from what mainstream media is saying that the birth certificate issue is a non-issue?
I think it's a terrible issue for Obama. I think it's a terrible issue for the country. I think it's insulting that he doesn't provide his birth certificate, if in fact he has one. And if you look at the facts, it's very scary, because if he was not born in this country, and his grandmother said very plainly, until she was corrected about 50 seconds later by a whole group of people in a room, probably screaming at her, but if you look at what the grandmother said, her initial statement was that he was born in Kenya at a hospital in Kenya. If you look at his family doesn't even know what hospital in Hawaii he was born in. And the thing that they have shown is a certificate of live birth, which is totally different than a birth certificate, and a much, much lower standard. In fact, in many places, you can't even use a certificate of live birth, which doesn't have great fact or detail or certainty. You can't use it to get married or to get a driver's license. And that's all he's gotten. And you know what I don't understand? And I keep telling people, they say, oh, gee, maybe you should get off this issue. Well, there's a lot of people, especially in the Republican Party, that agree with me 100%. What I don't understand is, why doesn't he just show his birth certificate?
Now, do you have investigators in Hawaii actually looking for records? That's what a lot of outlets have been reporting.
Well, I have people looking at lots of things. I'd rather not get into it. I'll report back at some time later, but I'd rather not really discuss. I don't want to use a term for description or of description, but I certainly am looking at it very, very strongly, and I think it's insulting to the country why he doesn't do that, and frankly, why he doesn't do something else. Why not let Obamacare go directly to the Supreme Court instead of wasting billions and billions of dollars and creating tremendous uncertainty with all of that? I have friends that have companies, and they're retooling their company now for Obamacare, and it may be overturned by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Why don't we skip these intermediate courts and go immediately to the Supreme Court so that we can know almost rapidly what's going to happen with Obamacare? It's a terrible thing. And I say, I sort of put them in the same breath. Show your birth certificate and let this thing go directly to the Supreme Court.
Well, we'll definitely see what happens. Mr. Donald Trump, we appreciate your time this afternoon. Thanks for talking with us, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
We will indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.